So, have you ever wondered why some of your relationships feel, well, just so hard? Or maybe why you react to certain things the way you do? We're going to dive into a book that might just hold some of the answers. Dr. Susan Forward's Toxic Parents. Seriously, this book is a landmark guide to understanding and, more importantly, healing from a difficult childhood. So, let's unpack its biggest ideas together. Right from the start, Dr. Ford gives us this incredible metaphor. Think about it. Our childhood isn't just a bunch of memories we look back on. Nope. It's the soil that our adult selves have been growing in this whole time. For some people, that soil is fantastic, full of love and respect. But for a lot of us, the seeds that got planted with things like fear or guilt or this heavy sense of obligation, and guess what? Those seeds grow right along with us, turning into patterns that can totally shape our relationships, our careers, and how we feel about ourselves, even decades later. Okay, so let's get into how these seeds actually get planted. The book makes this really critical point. What a family looks like on the outside, the perfect picture, can be hiding a reality that's way more complicated and, honestly, pretty painful. Let's take the story of Gordon from the book. He's a doctor, and his father was this super famous physician. To the rest of the world, his dad was a saint, a hero. But behind closed doors, it was a totally different story. When Gordon even thought about a career his dad didn't approve of, the response was basically, "You're disowned." This just perfectly captures that awful conflict so many people live with, trying to make sense of the parent everyone else loves and the parent who's causing them so much pain. So, what does toxic parent actually mean? Let's be really clear, because the book is. We're not talking about parents having a bad day or making a few mistakes. I mean, every parent does that. This is about a consistent, damaging pattern of behavior that leaves behind some serious emotional scars.
To help us see these patterns, Dr. Forward breaks them down into a few types. You've got the inadequate parents. They're so overwhelmed that the kid basically has to become the parent. Then you have the controllers, who use guilt and manipulation as their main tools to run every single part of their kid's life. Of course, there are parents dealing with alcoholism, where the addiction just takes over and creates chaos for everyone. And then the verbal abusers, the ones who use words like weapons, just constantly criticizing and belittling to keep control.
Now, there's a common thread that often runs through these situations, and it's something called codependency. You've probably heard the term. It originally was used to describe the partners of alcoholics, but Dr. Forward says it applies way more broadly. It's that feeling when you're always trying to rescue someone, always taking responsibility for their problems and their feelings, and in the process, you completely sacrifice your own needs. And that brings us to the long-term impact. Because so often the deepest wounds from this kind of upbringing are the ones nobody else can even see. They're totally invisible. This quote from the book, man, it just hits you right in the gut, doesn't it? Physical abuse is, of course, absolutely horrific. But emotional and verbal abuse, they leave these internal scars that can last a lifetime, totally changing how we see ourselves and how we see the world. So the book asks us to do a little self-reflection here. Ask yourself this. Do you feel like you are always responsible for how other people feel? Are you constantly trying to fix their moods or manage their problems? If that sounds familiar, it might be a huge sign that a pattern you learned way back in childhood is still steering the ship. And to make it even more concrete, the book has a kind of checklist. So think about it. Does solving someone else's pain feel like the most important job in your life? Do you shield them from the fallout of their own actions? Do you push your own feelings and needs aside just to keep them from getting angry or rejecting you? Ringing any bells? Those are classic signs of codependency. And here's the kicker. The reason these patterns are so darn hard to break. The book talks about this psychological thing called repetition compulsion. It's our brain's unconscious drive to recreate the same emotional situations from our childhood in our adult relationships. And you might be asking, why on earth would we do that? Well, on some deep subconscious level, we're hoping that this time, we can fix it. This time we can get it right and finally win that love or approval we were so desperate for as a kid. But look, just seeing the patterns is only step one. What makes this book so powerful, so valuable, is that it doesn't just diagnose the problem. It lays out a clear, practical path to actually start healing and breaking free. And it's so important to get this straight. Healing is not about just blaming your parents for the rest of your life. According to Dr. Forward, the real work is about grieving. It's about letting yourself feel the loss of the childhood you deserved but never actually got. Because it's only when you can accept that loss that you can really, truly start taking back the controls of your own life. The book gives you real, concrete tools for this journey. like something called the confrontation letter. Now, the point isn't even necessarily to send it. The real power is in writing it for yourself. This simple 4-step structure helps you get all those jumbled thoughts and feelings organized, moving from what happened in the past to how you felt to how it's affecting you now, and finally to what you need to move forward. And all of this work, this healing, it's not just about you. It has this incredible ripple effect that can change the future for you and for the people who come after you. This right here is the ultimate goal. We're talking about breaking the cycle. When you do the hard work of healing these old wounds, you're literally stopping a legacy of toxic beliefs in its tracks. You're giving your own kids and future generations this unbelievable gift, freedom from the very same patterns that caused you so much pain. The book wraps up its final thoughts with this absolutely brilliant quote. For maybe your whole life, you've been playing this painful, unwinnable game, trying to get your parents' approval, trying to change the past. The real freedom, the real liberation comes when you realize the only winning move is to stop playing the game altogether. It's about letting go of that old struggle and instead pouring all of that amazing energy into building a life that is truly 100% your own.